And I think sometimes, especially today, we're dealing with not only misinformation, but disinformation, where people, like we've seen it with Israel, people actively go out and oppose the truth with a complete lie, but they shroud it in something so that it seems like it might be true. So we're dealing with that across the board today, across the earth, with so many things. So,
I mean, itching for a new kind of war is what I remembered, and that's why I wanted to play that clip. But in playing that clip, I mean, there's so many relevant things that are going on right now that we could that shed light on what's happening right now.
At the same time, there's a lot of hypocrisy with that. But so the Western news won't report it because they don't want to show Christians being persecuted, because then people would feel sorry for them. It goes against the narrative.
Hello, House of Destiny. We want to invite you and encourage you to worship with us today, right where you are. If you're going down the road, if you're in your home, just create an altar, invite the Holy Spirit in. Let's create an atmosphere for Him to move exactly in a way that He needs to move for you today. They say this mountain can't be moved. They say these chains will never break. But they don't know you like we do. There is power in your name. We've heard that there is no way through. We've heard the tide will never change. They haven't seen what you can do. There is power in your name. So much power in your name. Move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. From the impossible, we'll see a miracle. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. Oh, yes, we believe you for it. Oh, yeah. We know that hope is never lost. Oh, for there is still an empty grave. God, we believe no matter what. There is power in your name. Oh, so much power in the name of Jesus. Move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. From the impossible, we'll see a miracle. God, we believe. Oh, God, we believe for it. God, we believe you for it. We're standing on your promise, on the word. We believe you for it. Yeah. Come on, wherever you are, just lift this up in faith. Right here. Yeah. You are the way when there seems to be no way. Yeah. We trust in you, God, you have the final say. Oh, you are the way when there seems to be no way. Oh, we trust in you, God, you have the final say. Move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, we God, we believe you for it all. Hey, move the immovable, break the unbreakable. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. From the impossible, we will see a miracle. God, we believe. God, we believe for it. Hey, we believe for it. Jesus, your name is holy. Your name is above it all, yeah. Holy are you, Jesus. Worthy is the name of Jesus. Yeah. Oh. Thoughts. Your name is the greatest. Your name stands above them all thrones, yeah, all thrones and dominions, all powers and positions. Your name stands above them all. Sing your name is holy, holy forever. Yes, you will, Jesus. You will always be holy, holy forever. Yeah, yes, you will.
Hi, Jane and everyone at the House of Destiny. I'm here at the school that you all built in Sockham Village, and I just want to send my deepest thanks. There's hundreds of kids that go to school here now. All the babies are getting good nutrition and early childhood education, and we just can't thank you enough.
Wow, and that was Amy all the way there in Cambodia and giving us an update. And of course, many of you out there were part of helping us build that school. And there are hundreds and hundreds of children that get fed every single day, and they have a hot meal, and they have their education, all because of the support that you help us provide for many of those children who, without us, would have absolutely no way to survive. Cambodia is a very difficult place in the world, and of course, children are the most vulnerable in the world that we live in. So thank you so much for helping us and for supporting us. And it's all about children here at the House of Destiny, and also reaching the lost for the Lord Jesus Christ. So thank you, everybody out there that's been a part of it, for helping us. We appreciate it so much.
Jane, I love that. You know, Kim was, anyone that was passionate about anything, Kim loved to see the passion in the human heart, because it comes from God. And there's nothing more satisfying than seeing the House of Destiny sowing into missions, and especially these precious and dear children around the world. I just love that. I know that you do too. We want to thank you again for your partnership. You know, we have to have partners. We need partners, and God gives partners. He's given us partners, and there are people watching that are feeling compelled to join this chariot. I'll tell you, that's because God has called us to carry the vision of our dear prophet. And you know, it says in Genesis chapter number 14 that Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was the priest of the Most High, and he blessed him and said, "Blessed Abraham of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth, blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand." And he gave him, speaking of Abram gave him a tithe of all. Now, this is before the law. So I want to settle this whole argument. You know, do you tithe? You know, do we tithe now because we're not under the law? No, Abram was not under the law. He just honored the Lord. He wanted to honor God in his victory. He wanted to honor God in his life. He wanted to honor God in the present, and he wanted to honor God for his future. And he took a tenth of all that he had, and he gave it to God to say, look, the Lord is the reason why I'm victorious. The Lord is the reason why I'm winning. The Lord is the reason why I'm living, and the Lord is the reason why I have a future. You know, we can't sit around and wait for something good to happen. What we do is we sow for our future. We sow for our breakthrough. We sow because we love God and because we're so thankful for all that he's done for us. Let's not just be takers. Let's be givers. And there is an absolute need in this moment that we're living in to break through and break out of the containment that the principalities and powers of darkness want to keep us in. We refuse to be contained. We refuse to be held back. We are going to move forward, and we are going to defy the famine and the unbelief and the darkness and anything the devil is trying to put on us. You know why? Because we serve the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth. Below the player, you can find all that you need, as in text to give. You can find out how to give. Click on the banner, and for a gift of $25 or more, you can get this powerful book by Kim Clement, and you'll be glad that you did. So, Father, bless your people. You're the God of the breakthrough. Thank you for giving us breakthrough, and thank you for giving us, Lord, the power to deliver innocent children, needy children, and people around the world through the saving gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. We give you all the glory now, Lord, in Jesus' name, amen.
Welcome to current events. The U.S. under this administration is moving away from Israel, as are many other Western nations, including Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Iran has effectively turned the international community through a propaganda war into another proxy. The U.S. is in a danger zone, going back to the 60s when they took prayer and Bible reading out of schools. Then in 1980, the 10 Commandments were removed. The U.S. started saying goodbye to God when the Supreme Court decision struck down the Defense of Marriage Act in 2013. Then in 2015, same-sex marriage got approved under the Obama administration. Everything we've been doing for the last 60 to 70 years has been moving away from God. He tells us in Genesis 12 that he would bless those who bless Israel, and he would curse those who curse Israel. America is literally poking God in the eye, a dangerous position to be in. And Israel is doing what it must in order to survive. Watch this.
The attack on the consulate building in the Syrian capital is considered an attack on sovereign Iranian territory. Israel has not claimed responsibility for the blast that killed General Mohammad Reza Zahedi along with his deputy and 5 other Iranian officers. General Zahedi was a commander in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Quds Force and a key figure in Iran's proxy war against Israel that provides training and weapons for terror groups in the region. Zahedi and his deputy reportedly meeting with those leaders inside the consulate, likely planning further strikes on Israel. Iran is threatening a harsh retaliation, and Hezbollah said the enemy would receive punishment and revenge. CDN News war correspondent Chuck Holton says Iran doesn't want a one-on-one war with Israel.
They want to continue with this proxy war through fighting Israel through the Houthis, through Hezbollah, and through Hamas.
That includes sending weapons to terrorists inside biblical Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank. Israeli forces operating in the territories discovering weapons shipped by Iran.
Massive amounts of explosives. They're starting to find mines, landmines, hand grenades, rockets, light anti-tank weapons, all sorts of weapons like that. And that bodes very poorly for Israel.
If a force the size of the one from Gaza that struck Israel on October 7th came out of Judea and Samaria instead, the destruction and death toll could be much worse.
Because it basically surrounds Jerusalem on three sides. If 1,500 bad guys had come across into Jerusalem and started going crazy, they could have easily killed a lot more people.
Well, that is the truth. I mean, look, if the problem that Israel is facing is they're basically surrounded,
Yes.
aren't they, Christy?
They're surrounded because what we've got to remember is that they're surrounded by what would be called an enemy on every side. So even though there's peace with some of the enemies, because of the way that Iran is playing chess, Iran and Russia are both playing chess here, and they've got proxies that are fighting for them.
Yes.
So again, it can sound strange to say to somebody, because we think, oh, the border, we're in America, it's this massive country, but Israel's tiny. And so when you've been to the border, I've stood on the borders of all these nations, I've looked across the Jordan River into Jordan, I've stood looking, it's a half a mile of fence and you can see into Syria. I've been there when a rocket flew from Syria and landed.
Yes.
And, I was texting Kim and said, a rocket's landed. He said, well, go there. I said, okay. So off I went. Doobie and I trudging off together, and when you've been there, I've been on to the north and I've seen into those enemy territories. And so like you're saying, Jerusalem right now, Israel is surrounded by enemies. And so whether it's the Houthis being used, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's Hamas, whether it's people working from inside Syria, on every border there's enemies. But now what happens, we've already seen what happens with Gaza, which is contained to a degree. What happens if these terrorists are able to start moving more freely within, I will call it Israeli territory because it is, Judea and Samaria, that ancient land that King David ruled over. What happens? It's now called, the West Bank, and they call it the occupied territories. I'm going to call it the occupied West Bank because that's what it is. It does not belong to anybody but the Jews because that's what God decreed, and he made the earth and he gets to decide. So that I will be very, very strong and firm about because I am a Zionist and I believe in prophecy and I know how this is going to end. Sorry, I know I get a little bit riled up about this, but it's just, we're watching Israel be surrounded. Look at what they've already done, having access via proxies at border points. What would happen if that started being able to be more easily moved around and they're able to attack from within? That's the problem that we're facing, and that's what we're looking at.
Yes.
And yes, the U.S. has abandoned Israel to a large degree, which we examined a couple of weeks ago on Current Events. Kim's prophecy to Bibi Netanyahu, do it quickly. Looking at how he said Israel will stand alone, and when this happens, take it as a sign of my coming. That's what we're watching.
Yes. That is what we're watching. And not only that, but we're watching Russia now on the border of the Golan Heights, and I mean Israel has had free reign in using the airspace over Syria, but we don't know for how long that's going to be lasting. Mm-hmm. And now they have the alert was the Russians are right on that border. So look, things are heating up. The Jews know it, and they're alerting the United States. They're trying to tell the United States, look, we may be the little Satan, but you guys are the big Satan.
Yes.
And that is exactly what's going on. We are fighting an ideology that most people really do not understand. And so let's go to the next clip now.
This part of the scene on the streets of Tehran, Iranian protesters burning American flags and chanting "Death to America" in response to a strike in Syria that killed one of Tehran's top military commanders. Iran is blaming Israel, vowing to retaliate. Robert Greenway is the director of the Center for National Defense at the Heritage Foundation. Great to have you on, Robert, and good morning to you. Just a clip from the Wall Street Journal. The Iranians pay a price in Syria. Israel targets the generals orchestrating Tehran's terror war. What comes of this strike? He wasn't the head of the Quds Force, but he was pretty high up there.
That's right. So Israel took a strike holding accountable the Iranian official chiefly responsible for maintaining the relationship, arms, equipment, training, planning, coordination, and funding for Hezbollah in Lebanon, and also for the armed militia groups operating within Syria supporting the Assad regime. And in doing so, they're holding Iran directly accountable. I think Iran was surprised to a certain extent. This strike was the most significant since the bombing of Islamic Jihad organization's Imad Mughniya in 2008. But as you said, a couple of rungs below Qasem Soleimani in 2020. I think they're caught by surprise, but it's likely they're going to apply additional pressure against the United States, believing that the United States is going to be willing to apply pressure to constrain Jerusalem and so thereby achieve their ends without having to directly confront Israel. And again, Israel has provided a path for us to recognize exactly what should be done to hold the Iranians accountable. It's the same individuals who planned, coordinated the attack that killed 3 Americans.
Yes, don't let us forget that America has also been attacked, and those 3 Americans were killed as well. But, you know, what I want to really focus on here is the fact that Israel is doing, they are attacking, they are on the offensive now, because they're in a very difficult position. They are doing what they need to do. Although the United States is very, they just are really getting slack on standing with Israel. Israel is taking the offensive, and that strike hit between 2 huge buildings. So that was very, very accurate. So we know that when Israel strikes, they're going to hit their target. And that is, I mean, that's just unbelievable to me that they managed to hit that building right there, didn't they, Donna?
Yes, exactly. And I'm also sort of wondering about Damascus being a ruinous heap as I look at that. Do we need to be worrying about that, Mom? Because that was the first thing I thought about as I was watching the clip, and I'm seeing Damascus. I'm thinking it was the first thing. Damascus would be a ruinous heap, doesn't it say that?
It does, and of course we know from Isaiah 17. Of course, I've showed it so many times in the past. That Damascus, Isaiah 17 predicts that, behold, Damascus will cease from being a city, and it will be a ruinous heap. And of course, Damascus is the oldest city on the planet. The beginnings of Damascus go back to a time before recorded history, being the oldest inhabited city in the world. It has never been destroyed, but we know it will at some point, and that was predicted, of course, in Isaiah 17. You know, the world is at a point where the Jews are being attacked, the Christians are being attacked worldwide, and the Christian persecution, although we don't hear that much about it, in some of these countries, these Eastern countries, it's absolutely terrible. Being a Christian, standing up for your faith, is something that we here in the United States know nothing about. Yeah. We know nothing about it.
You know, that's something I remember Daddy prophesying about this quite a bit, about the church underground in some of these countries, and we never hear about it. But those are Christians, you know, for instance, we've been talking about India and persecution in India, and we've heard from our friends over there at Kingdom Age. Arun from Kingdom Age has been keeping us updated, because these are not Christians. When we say Christians, we're not talking about Westerners or people from Western countries living over there. We're talking about people who are also from India that have converted to Christianity. They're also from some of these Middle Eastern countries, and they are actively Christian in countries that are extremely hostile to Christians.
Yes.
And so we don't hear about it as much because it's not popular in Western news to stick up for Christians in any way. You know, they've portrayed the Christians as being the worst, you know. At the same time, there's a lot of hypocrisy with that. But so the Western news won't report it because they don't want to show Christians being persecuted, because then there would be, people would feel sorry for them. It goes against the narrative they're pushing, the political narrative. So it is quite concerning, though, and we have been hearing things about persecution, not just Christians living in these countries, but actual persecution. And we've seen that a bit in India.
Yes.
Which was surprising
Did you
for
want
me.
to say something?
You know, what I was just going to say is that this sort of persecution of Christians, I mean, we've been seeing it for years and years and years. Just look at what's happened in Nigeria. Look at what's happened in various parts of Africa. I mean, you're talking about massive amounts of people being burned, and you know, it's kind of, at least to me, from what I can see, especially when we read in the book of Revelation, etc., it's true martyrdom. It's true martyrdom still taking place. When you think about what was said about the apostles, you know, they were beaten, and, you know, we, especially now, you were saying it, Madame, in the West, you know, being a Christian, so often you look at some of these celebrity pastors and everybody's walking around in $10,000 shoes and, you know, or I'm this popular because this person came to me. In Bible times, the prophets were not running around like that, let me tell you. Neither were the apostles. You know, the apostles, it says that they were beaten and whipped, and then it says, and they left rejoicing that they were counted worthy to suffer on behalf or in accordance with the name. And so there was something symbiotic, and there was a symmetry between being a Christian and suffering. You know, there's this message constantly, there's this dissonance where even though you suffer, you know, Hebrews tells us that Jesus was made perfect through suffering, and the word for that in the Greek translates to complete. Now, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, we need to, you know, self-flagellate and beat ourselves on the head with a piece of pottery. Not at all. All I'm saying is that these Christians who are our brothers and sisters that come from Africa, that are in India, that are in these different places where Christianity is really being pushed against aggressively, they're being martyred for the same faith that we have, except theirs is going through the fire now, and they're coming out on the other end. And I really do believe that they're going to get rewarded the way that the martyrs of old did. But just because the media doesn't report on it doesn't mean it's not happening. It is happening.
Yes. The Bible says, blessed are you when they revile and persecute you, and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake.
Yes.
Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Let's go to this clip and see what's happening in India.
Well, what we're seeing in India now is a war against Christians, especially the Northeast, the Hill people, the Kuki tribes. In their community, there's not a single church left. In the past year, over 200 churches were burned down. Hundreds of people were killed. Recently, a violent mob of Hindu extremists brutally beat and raped over 20 women and then paraded them through the city naked. So when you're seeing hundreds of churches burned, 70,000 Christians displaced in India, and you know, you have to set that in a world that's on fire. You know, we have in the Philippines now ISIS blowing up churches. In Nigeria, 9 out of 10 martyrs, Christian martyrs in the world this year will be in Nigeria. The Communist Party of China continues to disappear Christian evangelists and Catholic bishops monthly. And it's kind of shocking to a lot of Christians to discover that we often think of Hinduism as a peaceful religion. And when I try to talk to people about the rise of Hindu nationalism and the Hindu extremism in India, people will often giggle and say namaste. But the reality is extremists have been emboldened by this ethno-nationalism. They have this ideology, this extremist ideology that says that to be Hindu is to be Indian is to be Hindu. And so they don't even recognize these communities. And a lot of Christians are surprised, Gary, to discover that there are Christian communities in India that have been there since the 1st century. St. Thomas himself established those communities. So India has a long, rich history with Christians as an integral part of that history. And so it's quite frightening to see the rise of extremism, but these laws that are being passed, the brutality to the Kuki tribes, people who are 90% Christian, I see as a canary in the coal mine for the rest of India.
Well, what do we do about it? I mean, Modi, Prime Minister Modi, has done nothing to stop this.
No, and he's coddled by Western elites, even Christians. You know, Pope Francis hugged Modi. You know, it's quite sorrowful. We saw the silence of the Western Church when the 1st century Christians in Iraq were being annihilated during ISIS. By ISIS in October, we saw the ancient Christian community, the Armenian Christian community of Artsakh, completely ethnically cleansed, and not a word from the Western Church.
It's really shocking. It's very eye-opening to see what they have to go through, and to see the the church here in America when we have all the freedoms and yet we take it so for granted that nothing is going to happen to us. But it's unbelievable.
Well, the thing about it is, like he said, you hear Hindu and you think, oh, they're peaceful, namaste, let's meditate. That's a very small part of Hinduism and the way they think and what they believe. They function under a caste system that says that reincarnation takes care of karma, so wherever you're born is where you deserve to be.
Yes.
They are much more religious. You talk about people will look at the Catholic Church and the rituals and things like that, and it's all these religious rituals. Hinduism is worse. They have high priests. They have crazy rituals. They've got people who cover themselves in the ashes of the dead. So they cremate their dead, and they've got these men that sit at the side, and they cover themselves in the ashes, and they look all white. The whole way that they think and function is different. But it's true that Christianity has been there for a very long time, and you'll find that because of certain things that they believe, they can convert much easier to Christianity than, say, a Muslim or even a Jewish person. Mm-hmm. However, the other side of that is what they just pointed out to us, and it is in the northeast area, Mariupol area. You have Christian Indian people, Christian villages, and the attacks have been just as bad as what you would see with ISIS and with these other terrorist organizations. I was so surprised to see that was happening today with Hindus. I was very sort of cut off, but over the past year, we've been hearing firsthand from our friend in India, Arun, who does Kingdom Age podcast. And we've had him here on this show before. And he was explaining to us it's frightening for him and his family. He's got a wife and children. They are Christians.
Yes.
They follow Daddy, and they're trying to make a difference, and they're trying to do something. And to have to live with that fear, that's something we don't understand in the West.
No.
But it is unfortunately an issue that is growing in the West. An antagonism towards Christians, the blaming Christians of everything, anything, if you stand with Israel, you're a Zionist. These are very dangerous times when it comes to being a Christian, and we do need to be aware as Christians what is going on around the world, because we're in a safe little bubble here in the West, but that is actually quite fragile at this time, and we need to be not afraid and not sitting in fear or anything, but aware, and also aware of what our fellow Christians, as Christy said, our brothers and sisters suffer in these countries in ways that we are not even aware of, that our little problems, our first world problems are nothing in comparison. And so really we need to keep praying for these people too.
Let's talk about, I saw this on the news, this Havana syndrome that apparently is some kind of a weapon used against, that's been used against our military, our ambassadors and people in high positions. And they believe that it's something to do with Russia. Russia is involved in this. And let's go to the Havana clip now.
There's this story today as well. A new report is linking Russia to the mysterious Havana syndrome that's been plaguing hundreds of U.S. officials around the globe since 2016. This contradicts what United States intelligence agencies had said last year, that it was, quote, unlikely a foreign adversary was responsible. The Kremlin denies this report, but the investigation cites specific evidence now pointing to a Russian military assassination unit. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin is at the Pentagon. Jennifer, you and I could talk about a host of things. Let's stick on this today, and then you got to come back, because the world is on fire in parts of the Middle East. Go.
Thank you, Harris. This is an explosive new report by 60 Minutes, Bellingcat, The Insider, and Der Spiegel that found new evidence and links that suggest these U.S. government officials were attacked by a foreign adversary using a weapon that may at one point have been used as a listening device. This car chase near Key West 4 years ago, they report, reveals Russia could be behind the mysterious traumatic brain injuries known as Havana syndrome. A search of the car found handwritten notes of bank accounts, a device that can erase the car's computer data, and the driver's Russian passport. It's just some of the evidence 60 Minutes says links use of a directed energy weapon to members of the Russian GRU, or Military Intelligence Unit 29155.
It was like a high-pitched metallic drilling noise, and it knocked me forward. I immediately felt pressure and pain started coursing from inside my right ear, down my jaw, down my neck, and into my chest.
We just spoke to patient Zero, who goes by Adam to protect his identity. He was working undercover in Havana in 2016 when he experienced crippling auditory sensation that left him unable to walk or move. 60 Minutes suggests the first victim may in fact have been in Frankfurt, Germany 2 years earlier.
So that's crazy. Christy, have you ever heard of this before?
You know, I remember hearing rumblings about it. I think it was around 2016, wasn't it, when something first happened in Frankfurt? I think it was around then. And to be honest, at the time I was pregnant and very sick, and so at that point I actually didn't care what was going on in the world, because I thought I just need to get this baby out because it's making me so sick. And I thought, where is this trumpet? Every day I would look up and say, where are you? But I do remember hearing rumblings about that, and you know, I think it's so difficult sometimes for us to put it this way. Joel Rosenberg famously said, to misunderstand the nature and threat of evil is to risk being blindsided by it. And he speaks about that specifically pertaining to the Islamic regime and Islamic ideology. And I think sometimes, especially today, you know, we're dealing with not only misinformation, but disinformation, where people, like we've seen it with Israel, people actively go out and oppose the truth with a complete lie, but they shroud it in something so that it seems like it might be true. So we're dealing with that across the board today, across the earth, with so many things. But I think sometimes the problem in the West in particular is that we don't truly believe in the malevolence of other people. We'll hear Iran chanting death to America, death to Israel, and we think, oh, I'm sure they don't mean that. No, they really do. We'll hear different people saying different things that they want to do, and we think, no, that can't be true, because we possibly wouldn't ever do something like that. So the question is it possible that something like this is actually being used as warfare? Would it be a very evil thing to do? Yes. Is it possible? Yes.
Yes, and you know what? It actually makes me think of, we pulled a prophecy clip from my dad that day, February 22nd, 2014. Mm-hmm. He prophesied so many things about the Supreme Court, the impeachments, Trump, the gold, the new American Party, all that stuff. On that same day, he prophesied about a nation itching for a new kind of war with America. And we actually pulled that clip. So why don't we play that now and watch what Dad prophesied.
And then I heard gold. I wasn't sure if this was attached to his name, but he said to me, he will restore the fortunes in this nation. Because of his brilliance. I couldn't quite see his face because that was not allowed, because there was a mist that covered all the people and he was amongst them. And the Spirit of God made me look at him, and he said, this man will throttle the enemies of Israel. This man will throttle the enemies of the West. And there are highly embarrassing moments that are about to occur for many, many politicians in this nation. There will be a shaking amongst the Democrats in the upcoming elections, but unsettling for the Republicans. Why Why is God doing this? For God said, I am dissatisfied with what emerges from both parties. And then there is a nation, he showed me and took me, itching for a new kind of war with America. They will shout, impeach, impeach, they say. But nay. This nation shall come very subtly. But he shall not come in the time of President Obama. They shall come when this new one arises, my David, that I have set aside for this nation.
I mean, itching for a new kind of war is what I remembered, and that's why I wanted to play that clip. But in playing that clip, I mean, there's so many relevant things that are going on right now that we could, that shed light on what's happening right now.
Right, it's within context. You can see how he's, this was 2014. He was talking about the upcoming election, 2016. He talks about the Democrats and the Republicans, how they'd be shaken. He talks about the impeachments. He talks about so many things. So we know that it's in context and sort of in the middle of all of these things that we've seen come to pass, or watching come to pass, that was prophesied. In the middle of that, he says there's a nation itching for a new kind of war with America, and it will not come under President Obama. It will come when the new one arises, my David, which was obviously Donald Trump. So that
I mean, the new kind of itching for a new kind of war. If this Havana syndrome is actually true, I mean, that could possibly be it.
Well, yes, it's part of a larger thing, you see, because in America, you don't have a monarchy. Before, when countries went to war with one another, if you wanted to take over a country, you would go and you'd kill the king and sit on his throne.
Yes.
But the United States of America is by the people, for the people. So you have an entire country of people who, this is our country. There is no king. This is our country. We run it. And so how would you take over a country? You can't just go in like the old days. There's no king. There's no throne. So what I see is that new kind of war. Yes, the Havana syndrome is part of that, because we are in that war and have been since 2016, because Trump got in he wasn't supposed to. And we saw all the speeding up and this scramble around. And if you look back at it, it's easier to see that now, of people trying to figure out how to keep their plans going, because his presence was going to mess that up. And so we have had COVID, we've had lockdowns, we've got globalists coming after us, and we have this propaganda war as well. So this attack on our minds, to where we don't know what the truth is, we don't know what to believe, we're divided against one another and fighting each other over what? Over what? Over things we didn't even choose, like skin color and things of the body, whether you're a man or a woman. These things are part of the flesh.
Yes.
And so this is sort of, and it's so unfair too, because it's not a judgment on someone based on their own merits or deeds or choices. It's based on things they didn't choose. They had nothing to do with choosing. And of course, as Christians, we understand this body is a temporary vessel. It doesn't matter what color it is or all those things, what gender, those things don't matter. The devil's using that against us, we know, but so is our enemy, because they know the divide and conquer tactic is very old, but it still works. So when you cannot militarily take a country, they're trying to strip it down from inside and weaken us economically. Like I said, with trust, we can't trust our politicians. We can't even trust the doctors anymore. And so we feel like so when people are afraid, they're easy to control.
Right.
And so I do believe that this Havana syndrome is a weapon being used against us. And I do believe it's Russia doing it. Okay. And Russia's in cahoots with China and Iran. They're making the BRICS nations over there with India too.
Yes.
And then we see where's the trouble for Christians from all those places. And they are attacking us. And so I do believe that is a part of what that prophecy and what Dad was seeing happening.
Definitely.
Yeah, so, but before we go today, a couple of things.
Okay, go
I know
ahead,
we want to say goodbye, but not yet, because I want everybody to know a couple of things. Okay, I've got the book with me today. This is Prophetic Revelations, a collection of letters from the pen of Kim Clement. Isn't it beautiful? I love this book. This is a collection of things my dad wrote. He was such a good writer. These are prophetic and inspired and anointed writings, and we've put them together in a book for you, as well as I've got another one here today, The Daily Light. Many of you already have this. If you don't have it, please do get this. Daily Light is a 30-day devotional, also all written by my dad that we've collected. He wrote so many beautiful things. So we've been able to collect them into things to share with you. And so today, when we are giving our offering, because, you know, we've got, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see different ways that you can support the House of Destiny Network and the legacy of my dad. And we're working very, very hard right now on a new partner program that we are so excited about. I can't give you dates or deadlines or anything yet, but we are right in the thick of it, making something really amazing. And I know it's going to just, I know Dad, if he was in heaven watching us right now, then he must just love it. And so if you are giving a donation, you can give, there's a banner, should be a banner on the bottom of your screen. And if you give a donation of $25 or more, you'll get this book for free, and a donation of any amount for this one. And so I encourage you today, whatever God shares with you, to give to support our ministry and keep us coming to you with these broadcasts and all these prophecies. We're code breaking, and, you know, all through the week, we've got so many things for you. Prophetic Rewind, Real Life, Real Faith. We've got Israel Update on Fridays, and of course, Current Events Saturdays, and every Sunday I go live and we code break these prophecies. And so it's because of you and your support that we're able to keep doing this. And so we thank you for that. And so as you're giving today, again, you can see at the bottom of your screen the different ways to do, but I encourage you to get one of these. And so click the banner and you'll be directed on the website on how to do that. And I think that's all of our announcements for today. Is that right?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
Well, we're so thankful for everybody watching today. We're thankful for your support. We come to you every week, and we try to bring some kind of perspective so that you can see what's happening in the world, how it relates to Bible prophecy. And so we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the next Current Events.
There are ways that we as people and humans operate in witchcraft, and we have no idea that we're operating in it. Whether that's a state of control, a state of manipulation, a position of rebellion, to where we say, oh, well, I'm uncomfortable with this situation, so I'm going to pray against it. Not because it lines up with the word at all, but just because it don't make me feel too good.
And we have to remember, the scriptures tell us the enemy masquerades as an angel of light. He does that. He masks himself. Masquerade, the origin of that Greek word it was what would be used as somebody who was acting in a play. And so he masquerades as an angel of light, meaning there's going to be something that seems appealing because most people are drawn towards the light. So he masks himself and pretends to be something that's light, but what's underneath is vile and dark.
Spend most of your time in the Word. Why do you need a horoscope? Why do you need all these other things? Christians, spend time in God's Word. That's it.
On Monday of next week, April 8th, we're going to experience a total eclipse that's going to be seen throughout this country, the continental United States. It's going to be a very powerful event. It's going to be a very exciting event, but I believe that it is truly a sign. And so this is something that God has placed upon my heart, because, guys, we're living in the times now that we know without a shadow of doubt that Jesus is coming back soon. I want you guys to go, and I want you just to research what this particular total eclipse means and the significance of it, because it is very powerful. I will mention this: Nineveh. Nineveh is the central point of this total eclipse, so it is definitely a sign.
We here at the House of Destiny are partnering with you to let our viewers, of course, know about your company. It's Beverly Hills Precious Metal.
Andrew, explain how that works.
So I'll walk you through it right now. So if you go to bh-pm.com, right there on the homepage, you'll see a form that you could fill out. And that form is very important in letting us know how we can help you. So you just put in your first name, last name, email address, phone number. There's a section that says, how did you hear about us? And in there, put Kim Clement. And then there's a portion where you could write a couple of notes down on the bottom. Usually within about 24 to 48 hours, we'll contact you by phone call, and then we'll go over everything with you. This isn't a high-pressure deal. We always recommend that if you feel uncomfortable, take a step back, pray about it. You will gain the answers that you need by doing that, and come back to us when you're comfortable.
I'm excited to announce we're having a huge MyPillow spring sale, and here's a few examples. Buy one of our MyPillow 2.0s, you get another MyPillow 2.0 absolutely free. Made with cooling technology, the best pillow ever just got even better. And this just in, 9 brand new colors and styles of our Percale bed sheets. They're made with the finest long staple cotton, and now you can save 50% or more. That's as low as $24.98. And for the first time this year, I'm bringing you our My Slippers and Sandals for as low as $25 a pair. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get your MyPillow 2.0s. Buy one, get one free. Percale sheets as low as $24.98. My Slippers and Sandals as low as $25 a pair. And for a limited time, when you order $75 or more, your entire order ships absolutely free.